In our last video, we talked about how we animate a logo that we created in After Effects, or rather, we created the animation in After Effects, and we created the logo itself in Adobe Illustrator. So in this case, you can kind of see as it goes through, we've got different parts of it animated. I adjusted a little bit of this to make it last about 2 seconds long. You're welcome to keep the same project that you had before, but if you want to, say, for instance, go through and look at how the keyframes are parceled out and give it a little more time, that's up to you. But you can keep everything else the same, and we're going to just, as a bit of curiosity, explore how this is used. If you were to, say, for instance, maybe you made like some YouTuber's logo, or maybe you made a wedding video or like a promo video for something, and you create a little graphic for it, and you wanted to apply it to a video, or you wanted to put it in such a way that it was capable of being put into a video. So the great thing about the Adobe Creative Suite is that they do a lot of stuff that sort of cross, platform or cross program compatibility. So say, for instance, with this here composition in Adobe After Effects, press Save As here, Save As, and let me see, make sure I know where this is being saved to. This is being saved to my videos, so that should be pretty easy to find. If I go over here to Adobe Premiere and make a new project and, say, for instance, call it something like Motion Graphics 1, just because this is the first motion graphics applying to a video. We won't do this too terribly often, just to show you kind of what's happening here. What we want to do is we can actually go to our File Explorer. We can find this program, this little composition, and we can drag it here. Now, just real quick, kind of point out where we're at here. I have clicked on the Editing tab here, which should show us a couple things. We've got sort of an effect, kind of editor up here, and this is sort of what's going to be the final product. This little preview here. This is basically where all of our timeline is and all of our clips go. And then this right here is just every media piece that we want to use inside our project. So it's the same sort of project bin as in After Effects. But with this, what we can do here is we can actually find our animating a logo, and we can just drag this in to our media here. And I'll have to minimize this here. Or just click on Premiere, and it's asking you for a specific composition here. So in this case, I'm looking for the top one, animated logo here. So I'll look for animated logo, and I'll press OK, and it should ask me a second time. Press OK. And so you should see this thing pop up here, about 10 seconds long. So we'll just drag this in. And when I play this, it plays the animation. What say I wanted to, well, let me just go ahead and get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this right here, and I'm going to find this little, you notice we have two of these little clips here. We've got one that has a little film strip, a little like piece of film kind of hanging out, one that has a sort of family tree diagram. I'm just going to leave the little family tree diagram there. And I went to this website called Pixabay. Well, we've used Pixabay 1,000 times, but I went to the videos portion of it. So if you go to the main page, you can actually click and you can find stock videos, stock footage and stuff. And when you're under videos, you actually find some really cool videos here or there, like this time-lapse stuff or landscape stuff. When you click on it, you're given the option of downloading a variety of different resolutions. I would suggest you keep it with like 1920, 1080, or maybe even 720p. Those will give you a smaller file and be easier to work with. But whatever you choose, you can download it. And as soon as it downloads, if you're not using Chrome, obviously if you're using Chrome, you can just hit this little button here and say Show in Folder. And so in this case, it'll kind of hop up here. And so we've got this little Cliff 1890 right here that I've got. So I'm going to drag this in. And I'm going to just drag it once again right here into my little bin. So with that done, I just really want to, real quick, want to just kind of take a look at, you could treat your, shall we say, this composition as if it were a piece of footage. And so you can do any number of things to it in Premiere that you can with any other video. And we can do the same thing with our animated logo. We can drag this on top. And with the placement of a series of effects, I go over here to my effects. you can look up several different effects that you might like to use. Now, the first and foremost thing that we might want to do is change the color, because I don't necessarily like this, this red. So if we look under our effects, we can find a lot of things that we could use inside Photoshop that would apply here as well. So one of the things we could do is go over here to color correction and just say change color. And if we click over here onto this, it'll give us the opportunity to change a specific color inside our design. I click on this little eyedropper tool, click on the red, and now that's the one that we're changing. And so it gives us the HSL tabs. It gives us the hue, saturation, and lightness. So if I were, for instance, roll through the color wheel, I could find myself like a color that I liked. Say, for instance, I wanted this to be, it's kind of, well, maybe I do want it to be a little red, but maybe, for instance, I want it to be a little bit lighter, so I can crank up my lighting a little bit, or maybe less, like so much, like a little less desaturated. So the idea simply being that you can change the color to whatever you like. Now, if you have like a very bright area, you may want to have something that's somewhat darker. If you've got a very dark area, you may want to have something that's lighter. Now, if you're like me and you have something that's both light on one side and dark on the other side, maybe you can have, like, for instance, something light to stand out above the dark, but in order for it to stand out above the light, you need something kind of like to give it some contrast. So I'm going to look over here under my search bar and look up the word shadow, which is going to give me the option to do a drop shadow, which you might remember from Photoshop. And you can already see the shadow there. And again, you're given all the same kind of options. You're given like how dark it's going to be, for instance, which direction it's going to be falling, how far away it's going to be, or even like how blurred it's going to be. So in this case, maybe we can kind of like pull this in a different direction here. All right. So all this stuff, kind of comes together to make your stuff more visible. So I can just click on this. It's kind of fun. I kind of like that. I kind of like how that looks. Right, so this is the long and short of designing for graphics. So imagine you are a graphics designer and you are tasked with creating a little logo, a little splash, a little badge that's going to play on top of some kind of like promotional video or play on some sort of website that's going to run as some sort of repeating GIF ad. And you want something that's designed. And so you say to yourself, well, what kind of a design is it going to be? What kind of color does it need to be? What kind of animations are they looking for? And so one of the first things you're going to want is the source video. Okay, so let's submit this as a little MP4 here. So what we'll do is we'll just drag this down. Let's shorten your video to match your motion graphics here, and just make sure it sort of opens up and plays to its completion here. And then once you're done with that, make sure that this little blue box is highlighted here. And when we hold down the control button, tap M on the keyboard, and it should give you the export settings here. And like you did before with your Adobe Creative, Adobe After Effects, you hit this button that says Q, and it'll bring up your media. Okay, so once this is up, you can adjust your settings here. Now, under the first little bar, you're going to get what kind of a video file it's going to be. You want to make sure that H.264 is chosen into this little drop-down menu here. If it says .avi, even though it's 10 seconds long, it might end up being like a gig in size, and you definitely don't want that. As far as match source, you can choose medium bitrate, which just lets it stay a HD video, but just kind of pulls the frame rates to more like an interlaced and a little bit less space on your hard drive there, or on your server space. As far as the output file, if you click on this, it gives you the chance of naming it. So for instance, if you wanted to name this say for instance a motion graphics 1, and you can save this. And then once you're done with that, I would go ahead and click on the Mercury Playback Engine acceleration thing here, and just click on Mercury Playback Engine software only, and hit this little play button here. Once that play button goes through, it should be an MP4. Okay, so once that's done, you can click on this little blue text right here, and you can open up the file that it's saved into, and you can see right here we've got motion graphics. And there it is. And that's our video. So this is the video that you're going to be turning in. Very cool. Can't wait to see you produce. See you in class.